AskReddit. AskReddit. Former cult members of Reddit, at what moment did you go, oh no, I'm an A-cult? I used to practice kung fu at what was basically the most McDojo place ever. On top of all the usual money grabbing bullshit, the Grandmaster changed his title to something like His Celestial Holiness and started getting his students to travel to the woods to build his temple. Nope. My time with Primerica. Weekly events that had long moments of clapping and loud music. Prevents thinking and conversation. Big events with clapping, music, doing things like the wave. Prevents thinking, conversation and encourages conforming. Several speeches from Maya Pline about how we shouldn't spend our time with people who don't want to be a part of the company, including family and lifelong friends. Planning on moving into the same community together that was referred to as the Primerica Estates. Parents had a Halloween party planned the same night as my Primerica office's Halloween party. I was chewed out for picking family over company. We traveled to events out of state. It was frowned upon for us to travel on our own. They wanted us to go on a bus or van together. The idea that someone would be happier doing something other than Primerica? Comical. Surgeons, lawyers, military officers, scientists, all would be better off joining Primerica and giving up their jobs. Had an accident when I was 12 that injured my back. Sitting hurt. I convinced my mother to allow me to walk around during the multi-hour long services in the library/overflow room downstairs that had a speaker blaring whatever was going on at the pulpit. In that library was all the original cult publications from 80+ years previous. No one ever paid any attention to them, but I was a voracious reader. They were into some wackadoo shit at the beginning that totally contradicted the current teachings. Pyramid power, numerology. I never said anything because it was a closed society and questioning meant total shunning, but from that point on I was aware that it was all garbage and I spent most of my time planning my escape. When I finally publicly called bullshit 6 years later, I lost everyone and everything. Life sucked for a while, but 10/10ths would do it again. Don't answer the door when Jehovah's Witnesses come knocking, especially if you have children. They're hiding tens of thousands of pedophiles in their ranks. FN weirdo doomsday bastards. When they said I'm going to marry someone from Korea, when I said no, they said they already bought the plane tickets. I was actually in a church that transformed slowly into a cult. They just slowly started doing more and more miracle things and being open more and more days open with encouragement to be there for those days. Tithes became incredibly important and the priest family became more and more important. I left, but I heard some insane things happened after I left. I was lucky as I came from a really complicated low socioeconomic background. When I moved for uni there wasn't much fight for me. 3 things happened. 1 point, a person died from suspicious circumstances, loosely tied to the group, and none of the adults would listen to me that he did not commit suicide. 2 point, I started to meet those back parking lot kids at school who were into free thinking and questioning religion. Most are artists and successful loving parents now. 3 point, couple those things with the fact that the youth group weekly Bible study leader thought she could actually see demons and the head youth leader was backing her up on her claims. I was pretty ready to leave when I turned 18. I did not go back. Edit, I forgot. My mother tried to exorcise demons from me when I was 18 because I came home late at 11:30 p.m. I was an A/B student, had maybe smoked pot like 2x, was a virgin and all in all a pretty good kid. I had no language or education at that point to argue that I was, in fact, not possessed by the devil, because you can't argue with crazy. She's kicked me out a few weeks later, and I stayed with a family of Wiccans before I moved to my first shared apartment. Obligatory not me, but my friend's grandfather was a farmer growing up, think 1940s or 50s. It was kind of a remote town, but he would talk to other farmers and buyers when he went down to the market. One day, an acquaintance of his tells him that they're having a meeting with whole bunch of other farmers and farm hands, and that he should come and join. My friend's grandfather, thinking it's some sort of farmers alliance, is like, sure, why not? Friend's grandpa goes to the meeting and is a bit confused when it's not about farming at all. It's a KKK meeting. He has a no crap, I'm in a cult moment, but waits till it's over because he doesn't know what will happen if someone sees him trying to leave. Meeting ends. He goes home. Dude tries to invite him again, and friend's grandpa nopes out of there. Edit. Some have brought up that the KKK isn't a cult, but more of a hate group / gang. I always thought it was a cult, but hey, you learn something new every day. Carry on. Mine wasn't a typical definition of a cult, but I realized Jehovah's Witnesses were pretty delusional by about 12 to 13 years old. Took me a few more years to get out due to my father being an elder and someone who had no problem physically forcing his son to go to meetings and out in service. Door knocking. Sounds like a corny fake scenario, but it took me being tough enough to fight him off. Was asked to leave the house at 17 while still in grade 12, so I did. I had a job and had an older friend to live with. That's when I realized it was, in my opinion, a cult. That you would turn on your son because he didn't believe what you believe. That you would beat your son because he was being bullied at school and couldn't stand door knocking anymore in his own neighborhood where he encountered classmates either at their homes or as they were riding their bikes down the street on a sunny Saturday morning with me walking with my dad in a suit and tie with a briefcase full of maniac ravings about living forever. Was accidentally in a religious cult. I would see how the pastor would treat non-members and members that didn't comply with what he wanted, and I would think, I hope he doesn't start acting this way towards me. He would berate people, gossip, expect us to stay at his house until late hours, forbid us to hang out with non-members, and he even asked me to move in there when I already had my own place. I noticed it was a cult when I told them I was hanging out with an old friend, and they proceeded to ask why was I doing that, and that they were my friends. I came to a service that following Sunday and the pastor sees me and says I had a message I was going to preach, but I'm going to preach a different message today. The whole service was pretty much him talking shit about me and making rude jokes. I knew this sermon was about me when he kept referencing the person hanging out with other people and saying it was sinful and of the world. I never felt so embarrassed in my life with everyone laughing at me. I sat that entire service just embarrassed. Once I left, several of the members attempted to contact me, with a few of them trying to go to the movies with me at midnight, when they knew damn well the closest movie theater was an hour away, and what movie theater shows movies at midnight. After I stopped going to that church, a few of the members completely stopped talking to me despite us being friends. Still can't believe that happened to me. When I realized how dead serious they were about their Nazi bullshit. When I learned our founding prophet would send men on missions so he could hump their wives and daughters. Or maybe when I learned our cult had over 40 billion in the stock market and over 100 billion in assets, but only uses 0.5% of the donations it receives to help the poor. Or maybe when our 94-year-old prophet's latest revelation was to take vitamins. Once I was invited to a supposed Christian youth meeting by my cousin. I didn't really want to go, but she insisted, so I ended up there. It was held in a small apartment, and when we arrived we were greeted by the group leaders, which seemed like totally normal young people. Afterwards the other members arrived, and they turned off all the lights at the apartment. I thought that was a little weird, but no big deal. Then they started with the music. They put those Christian rock songs they usually use at normal Christian youth groups, but they started dancing like maniacs, jumping everywhere, flailing their arms, and the weirdest of all, laughing uncontrollably. Then, in 1 second, they all threw themselves to ground, got on their knees, and started crying like their mother had just been brutally murdered. After this they got up and started dancing and laughing again, as if nothing ever happened. I was seriously creeped out at this point, but this was only the beginning. They started with this weird ritual where they promised to perform any miracle you wanted or needed, as Christ allowed them to do so. A kid said he wanted to get taller, and so they put their hands all over him and starting murmuring prayers for a while. Then they put him against a wall, and they claimed he had at least grown 3 centimeters. He believed them, like, seriously believed them. Later, they claimed that they could turn water into wine, and grabbed a bottle of water, put their hands on top of it and prayed again. The water didn't change at all, but they all drank from it and claimed it tasted like wine and claimed they were getting drunk from it while laughing hysterically again. Finally the reunion ended and they continued being as normal as they were before, as if nothing had happened. I left and when they tried to contact me again I just ignored them.